All right, now let's dive right into the power sector. State governments will now be allowed to generate and transmit their own electricity as the federal government is set to decentralize national grid to accommodate more investors with a plan to invest about $550 million. According to President Muhammadu Buhari, his administration is moving at improving Nigeria's power supply amid constraints and bottlenecks which have seen multiple incidents of grid failures. He said Nigeria is decentralizing the national grid through renewable-driven mini-grids and also signed into law the constitutional amendment bill, which will allow state governments generate and transmit their own electricity. Now, what impact will this have on the sector once the plan is implemented? We would be analyzing this further with Adetayo Adegbemle, convener and executive director, Power Up Nigeria. He joins us now via the phone. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Adegbemle.
Good morning, good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, good morning to you. Now, let me get your first reaction to the federal government's plan to decentralize the power sector.
The idea to decentralize the power supply to Nigeria is a pretty welcome one.
Is what?
So the question, it's always a welcome development.
Okay.
So the question here, though, is the method with which they want to go about it.
Okay.
Mr. President spoke about decentralizing the national grid via mini grids and use of solar. Well, there are still limitations on that. The approach we would have expected, though, is a bit different. We have argued over time that it does not make sense for us to have a central grid in Nigeria, with which we mean, if anything happens along Calabar, for instance, it affects production down up to Lagos, you know. So when we say we are looking forward to have a decentralized national grid, we are looking more in terms of streamlining our generation. So, for instance, we have power generated in Lagos, for instance. There'll be no need for it to, first of all, get to the national grid in Oshogbo before it gets distributed to eventual users. Along that line, we have loads and loads of losses along that line, which we could believe could have been better managed if the distribution is done within Lagos and its immediate environment.
Now, the president and the federal government talking about using renewable energy as the means to decentralize this power sector. Do you see that being feasible, considering the fact that there are still a lot of challenges mitigating against the exploration of renewable energy in Nigeria?
Challenges in terms of technology development, challenges in terms of funding. Those are very heavy issues that we need to, and of course, the costs. The cost of the renewable. The cheapest forms of energy are still on the national grid, and are still from some selected sources of power. So if we insist on going renewable, we have to consider the technology, we have to consider the cost of doing this, and the eventual cost to consumers. Those are the primary things we should not forget to put in consideration. While we're venturing into power sector reform, one of the big things that we are supposed to be the driver is that we will be able to get power to consumers at the cheapest possible rate. Of course, we have heard of that, and insisting that we're going to go renewable is also flaring fun down the line. Then again, you see, there is other part of the aspect of the conversation or the argument that we should also put into consideration. There are serious energy crises across the world as we speak right now. And
especially with the Russia-Ukraine war.
Well, yes. Russia being one of the primary sources of natural gas, for the world, and of course coal for those that are also using coal. I mean, so that little crisis on its own has thrown the whole of Europe into serious energy crisis, and of course the whole world is also feeling the other impacts down the lane. So we also have the example of Germany, for instance. UK, for instance, are also saying that they are going to reopen a number of their nuclear power plants and before they're going to ramp up production through via coal. Similar experience that we had in Germany, and of course, this also spreads across the whole of Europe. So yes, we can say we want to go renewable, but the emphasis should be on developing what energy sources will serve our needs here in Nigeria, will solve our national interests first. Then we can now talk about catching up with the rest of the world. But for now, we are so much disadvantage for us to say we want to do copycats, we want to go renewable, we want to put in our money into one revolution. And unfortunately, so far as we speak, we don't produce any aspect of what we renewable. I mean, solar panels, inverters, batteries, we don't produce any of those things in Nigeria. So it will continue to make us largely dependent on, pillars like
importation,
India, like China.
And of course make it more expensive to provide power.
Say that again.
I said, and that would of course have its ripple effect and make power expensive.
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at it. Because the inflation continues to we are above 18 point something by the latest data by Nigerian Bureau of Statistics.
17.71%.
How much?
Inflation rate, 17.71%.
I mean, it's not. We're even looking at that figure, but what is the actual effect, direct effect on people? The cost of living, the cost of buying food, the cost of energy, it keeps increasing. So, I mean, if we want to go down through that route, we will definitely also be adding to the burdens of an average Nigerian. And I don't think that's what the government should be focusing on right at the moment.
But let's also look at the bottlenecks facing the power sector, because we have seen the sector go through several reforms, from privatization to service-based tariff, on the promise that electricity supply would improve. But we've still not seen any improvement. What exactly is the issue here?
Well, like we've always been saying, the major bulk of the issue, like I personally believe, and I've also been pushing, it's more of a human thing. It's not as if our power sector is so bad that we can't solve these things. I mean, let's take for instance the issue of metering. We have come with different ideas for the federal government, for everybody that's involved, and say, okay, the districts cannot afford to meter people. Why don't you just do the alternative? Now we went through the route of MAP, but the consumers are paid for their meters through MAP are supposed to be refunded. Nobody said anything about it. Everything is still boils down to the implementation of this. There's nothing difficult in this country, no doubt about it. But what about the people that have been empowered, enabled to solve this problem, to implement these laws? Are they also doing it because they are free to do it, or they are doing it because they are convinced they want to do it?
So let me butt in there. If we were to decentralize and maybe it scales through, there is a budgetary allocation for the power sector yearly by the National Assembly. What exactly do you think would happen to states in terms of sharing formula, which state gets how much and all of that, considering the fact that the resources are not evenly distributed?
Can you say that again another way?
Yes, so if we decentralize and states start producing their own or generating their own power, what exactly would happen to the budgetary allocation that goes to, the power sector yearly? Would states now have to get a share of it? And if so, what portion would determine what each state gets?
This is one of the major challenges that we have, and for those proponents of decentralization politically, this is where the argument comes from. We have states with the capacity, both natural resource and the financial resource, to invest in the power sector. I mean, Lagos State, for instance, has been talking to the World Bank, to the tune of 20 billion naira. But 20 billion, I'm not sure if it's dollars or naira, but 20 billion, recently. And it is ongoing, that Lagos State is trying to create its own electricity market. For me, it's a very big kudos to them. So we have states with natural resources and the financial capability for them to fruit.
So are you saying there won't be a need for the budgetary allocation for the power sector?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. After all, the budgetary allocation is fixed. It will come with that. I mean, the percentage is fixed already. So it is not a question of, I don't expect a state like Osho State, for instance, that doesn't have the financial muscle to go into it, unless they're able to get maybe international partners that are bringing in funds to come and do it. Then they will now need to now show that the market is going to be profitable in their state. But look at it's not like Lagos. That is the financial capital of Nigeria, is the market capital of Nigeria, the industrial market capital of Nigeria. Definitely, you will know that if industries are able to power themselves through the grid, they won't have the need to provide alternative sources of power for themselves, which they have.
All right, there's still so much to explore on this issue. There is so much to talk about, but we're really constrained by time. Thank you so much for your time, Adetayo Adegbemile.
All right, that's fine.
All right, have a great weekend. Okay, we've been speaking with Adetayo Adegbemile. He is the Executive Director, Power Up Nigeria, and he's been talking to us about the decentralization of the power sector, which has been proposed by the federal government. We'll take a break. When we'll come back, we'll delve into the global oil market. Please stay with us.